On a chilly Saturday morning in November 2024 in Seattle, Washington, the damp air was filled with the scent of fallen leaves and roasted coffee from small cafes lining the streets. In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Ballard, white-painted wooden houses stood close together, hidden behind low fences and withered hydrangea bushes. Life here seemed as ordinary as could be, families taking their children to soccer fields, neighbors exchanging friendly smiles while walking their dogs. But behind the blue door of the house at 1432 65th Street, a horrifying secret was waiting to be revealed. That morning, an Amazon delivery driver stopped in front of the house. He left a package on the doorstep, but his eyes inadvertently glanced into the backyard through a gap in the fence. An old, dusty, cobweb-covered freezer lay haphazardly near the wooden wall. What made him pause wasn't the freezer itself, but a dark red dried stain seeping from its crevice, blending into the damp ground. He shrugged, thinking it was probably just old sauce or paint, but a sense of unease prompted him to text a friend who worked at the Seattle Police Department. "Hey, there's something weird in this house's backyard." Just a few hours later, the police arrived. They knocked on the door, but no one answered. A police officer, Sergeant Jack Callahan, a tall white man with blonde hair, decided to check the backyard. When he lifted the lid of the freezer, a putrid smell wafted up, making him recoil. Inside, tightly wrapped in layers of black trash bags, was the body of a man. The victim's face was frozen, eyes wide open, as if still horrified by his final moments. No one in the neighborhood could believe it. The resident of this house was Yvonne Carter, a 42-year-old black single mother, known for her warm smile and homemade Christmas cookies she gifted to neighbors. Yvonne, a dedicated bank employee, was a model of hard work and resilience. But now she became the focus of a gruesome murder case. What had happened in that house? Why was the body hidden in an old freezer? And more importantly, what pushed an exemplary mother to an unimaginable act? The story began in the ordinary days before, when no one realized that darkness was creeping into Yvonne Carter's life. But like all tragedies, the signs were always there, waiting for eyes sharp enough to notice. Seattle, with its persistent rain and gray skies, was where Yvonne built her life after leaving her Alabama hometown 2 decades prior. She lived with her 16-year-old son Marcus in a small but tidy house. Neighbors remembered Yvonne as a strong woman who kept her private matters to herself but never refused to help when asked. "She was the kind of person who made you feel safe," recounted Mrs. Helen, a next-door neighbor, her voice trembling. "I can't believe it. It's impossible." But behind closed doors, Yvonne was facing pressures no one knew about. Her job at the bank was increasingly stressful. Marcus started rebelling at school, and a man from her past suddenly reappeared carrying secrets that could destroy everything. This story isn't just about a murder case. It's about how small cracks in life can lead to irreversible consequences. And as the police began to dig deeper, they discovered that the freezer in the backyard was just the tip of an iceberg filled with secrets. Ballard, Seattle. Late autumn 2024 was a peaceful scene with vibrant red maple trees and children's voices from the playground. Yvonne Carter's house at 1432 65th Street, belonging to the 42-year-old black single mother, was no different from the others' cream walls, blue curtains, wild daisies by the entrance. But simmering tension was creeping in. Yvonne, an employee at KeyBank, was well regarded for her dedication. Recently, her colleague Sarah noticed her frequently checking her watch, looking worried. Marcus, her 16-year-old son, once a source of pride with dreams of becoming an engineer, began arguing with teachers skipping school and smoking. Yvonne kept her troubles to herself, telling a friend, "I'll handle it myself." Neighbors noticed strange signs. Mrs. Helen recalled Yvonne standing by the backyard freezer at night, her eyes filled with fear. Mr. Tom heard arguments, a strange man's voice shouting, "Get out of my life." Yvonne denied it when asked. That man was Derek Ramsey, 45, an ex-boyfriend from Alabama. In the summer of 2024, Derek appeared calling and texting threats, causing Yvonne immense stress. Yvonne took many sick days, kept her doors locked, and forbade Marcus from going out after 9 p.m. She moved the freezer to the backyard, saying she was cleaning up. Her sister Marla remembered Yvonne calling, saying she was in trouble, but only wanted to protect Marcus. No one suspected that a tragedy was about to unfold, and the freezer would become the center of a shocking case in Ballard. On November 9, 2024, Seattle's sky was gray, and a steady drizzle fell. In the house at 1432 65th Street, Yvonne Carter stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling as she chopped vegetables. The clock showed 6:45 p.m. Marcus had gone to bed early after a long day at school. The air in the house was heavy, the light from the kitchen lamp casting long shadows on the walls. The doorbell rang, breaking the silence. Yvonne stopped, looked out the window. Through the rain, she saw the familiar silhouette of Derek Ramsey standing on the doorstep. 6:50 p.m. Yvonne opened the door, her voice cold. "I told you not to come here again." Derek, tall and wearing a soaking wet black coat, walked in uninvited. The strong smell of alcohol wafted from his breath. "I need money, Yvonne," he said, his voice threatening. "You owe me." An argument erupted. Yvonne screamed, demanding Derek leave, but he advanced, grabbing her arm. The shouting echoed, but neighbors couldn't hear it. The sound of rain drowned everything out. 7:12 p.m. The situation escalated. Derek pushed Yvonne against the wall, one hand at her throat. In a panic, Yvonne reached for the kitchen knife on the table. The steel glinted under the light. She stabbed once, then again into Derek's chest. He fell, blood spreading on the wooden floor. Yvonne stood frozen, breathing heavily, the knife dropping to the ground. The rain continued steadily outside the window. 7:20 p.m. Yvonne knelt beside the body in a state of shock. Marcus was still asleep, unaware. She dragged Derek's body through the back door, out into the dark backyard. The old freezer, now plugged in, stood silently near the fence. Yvonne opened the lid. A musty smell wafted up. She wrapped the body in black trash bags, crammed it into the freezer, her hands trembling. Blood seeped out, staining the ground. She closed the lid, locked it, and wiped the kitchen floor clean, but a small blood stain remained on the freezer handle. 7:45 p.m. Yvonne sat huddled on the sofa, her eyes vacant. She checked on Marcus, finding him still asleep. She washed her hands, changed her clothes, and threw the knife into the backyard trash can mixed with other garbage bags. That night, she didn't sleep, only stared at the window as if waiting for someone to knock. For the next 2 days, Yvonne tried to remain calm. She went to work, took Marcus to school, but her eyes always avoided the backyard. The freezer, now a frozen tomb, lay silently waiting for the day it would be discovered. The smell of dried blood and the ceaseless rain haunted her, a reminder of the fateful moment that changed everything. On November 11, 2024, 2 days after the incident, the Ballard neighborhood remained peaceful, unaware of the horrifying secret in the backyard of 1432 65th Street. Yvonne Carter tried to maintain a normal appearance, taking Marcus to school, smiling at neighbors, but her eyes constantly avoided the freezer. However, a small detail changed everything. Around 8:30 a.m., Josh Miller, a 24-year-old Amazon delivery driver, stopped in front of Yvonne's house. He had delivered here many times, familiar with her friendly smile. That day, as he placed the package on the doorstep, Josh glanced over the low wooden fence and noticed the old freezer in the backyard. The dark red stain seeping from the crevice made him pause. "It's probably just saucer paint," he told himself, but a sense of unease prompted him to quickly snap a photo with his phone. After his shift, Josh sent the photo to his friend Mike, a police officer at the Seattle Police Department. "Hey, there's something weird in this house's backyard." The message accompanying the photo read, Mike, a white police officer with 5 years of experience, looked at the photo during his lunch break. The red stain and the freezer's location made him suspicious. He reported it to Sergeant Jack Callahan, who decided to investigate immediately. At 2:15 p.m., Callahan and 2 other officers knocked on Yvonne's door. No one answered. They walked around to the backyard where the freezer lay. A foul odor wafted out when Callahan opened the lid. Inside the body of a man wrapped in black trash bags, his face frozen in horror. Callahan immediately called the forensics team. Josh, though not witnessing the freezer opening, felt uneasy. He remembered his previous delivery a few weeks ago when Yvonne hastily accepted the package, her eyes, anxious hands trembling. She wasn't herself. He later told the police, his voice hesitant. Josh struggled with the thought of reporting more fearing bothering his kind neighbor, but the photo he took changed the game. Meanwhile, Yvonne at the bank received a call from a colleague at home. "The police are in your backyard." Her face paled, her hand gripping the phone. In that moment, Yvonne knew her secret had been exposed. Josh, inadvertently becoming a key witness, never imagined that his quick photo would uncover a case that would shock all of Seattle. The door to the truth had opened, and nothing could stop the upcoming investigation. On the afternoon of November 11, 2024, the backyard of 1432 65th Street, Ballard, Seattle, became a bustling crime scene. The Seattle Police Department's forensics team, under the command of Sergeant Jack Callahan, a seasoned white police officer, began collecting evidence. The old freezer was sealed, and the body inside was transported to the King County Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy. Dried bloodstains on the ground and faint fingerprints on the freezer handle were sampled for DNA analysis. Security cameras from a neighbor's house captured blurry images of a tall man arriving at Yvonne's house on the evening of November 9th, matching Derek Ramsey's description. The autopsy completed on the morning of November 12th confirmed the victim as Derek Ramsey, 45, who died from 2 stab wounds to the chest, 1 piercing his heart. The estimated time of death was around 7:00 p.m. on November 9th. Fingerprints on the kitchen knife found in the backyard trash can matched Yvonne Carter's. Short black hair strands on the victim's shirt were also consistent with Yvonne's DNA profile, strengthening suspicions. At 3:00 p.m. on November 12th, Callahan and Detective Lisa Monroe, also white, arrived at KeyBank to interrogate Yvonne. In a small conference room, Yvonne sat still, her hands clasped her eyes, avoiding theirs. "I don't know anything about Derek," she said, her voice trembling. But when Callahan presented the camera photos and DNA results, Yvonne bowed her head, silent. After 20 minutes of confrontation, she confessed, "He attacked me. I just wanted to protect myself and Marcus." Yvonne recounted how Derek had been threatening her for months, demanding money and threatening to reveal past secrets. That evening, he choked her, and in a panic, she stabbed him. Police searched Yvonne's house, finding an old phone in a drawer containing threatening messages from Derek. "Pay me, or I'll tell everyone about Alabama." One message read. This confirmed the motive, but Callahan suspected Yvonne was hiding something else. "She confessed too quickly," he told Monroe. "Maybe she's protecting someone else, like Marcus." On November 13th, Yvonne was arrested on charges of second-degree murder. When read her Miranda rights, she merely nodded, her eyes vacant. Marcus, sent to stay with his Aunt Marla in Tacoma, was deeply shocked, insisting, "My mom is not a killer." But the evidence was undeniable. The moment Callahan handcuffed Yvonne, he knew they had found the perpetrator, but questions about deeper secrets still haunted him. The case, now headed to the grand jury, began to reveal the dark corners of Yvonne Carter's life. In March 2025, the courtroom at King County Superior Court, Seattle, was filled with tension. Yvonne Carter, 42, stood before the jury, her eyes heavy as she listened to the second-degree murder charge. The trial lasted 3 weeks with forensic evidence, fingerprints on the knife DNA on victim Derek Ramsey's shirt, and threatening messages presented clearly. The defense lawyer argued that Yvonne acted in self-defense, emphasizing Derek's history of violence and her panicked state on the evening of November 9, 2024. But the prosecutor countered, pointing out Yvonne's act of hiding the body in the freezer as a calculated act, not spontaneous. On March 20th, after 2 days of deliberation, the jury found Yvonne guilty of manslaughter rather than second-degree murder due to mitigating circumstances of self-defense. The judge sentenced her to 7 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 4 years if she demonstrated good behavior. Upon hearing the verdict, Yvonne bowed her head, tears silently falling. Marcus, sitting in the public gallery, burst into tears, hugged tightly by his Aunt Marla. The case left a heavy aftermath in Ballard. Neighbors who once saw Yvonne as an exemplary mother were divided in their opinions. Mrs. Helen, the next-door neighbor, said, "I don't believe she's a bad person, but why hide the body that sends shivers down my spine?" Mr. Tom, another neighbor, felt regret. If she had reported it to the police right away, maybe things would have been different. The community began discussing domestic violence with local groups, organizing workshops to raise awareness about how to support victims. Marcus, now living with his aunt in Tacoma, struggled with the pain of losing his mother and the truth of her actions. He quit basketball, became less talkative, but started writing a diary as a way to understand his mother. "Mom just wanted to protect me," he told a school counselor. Marla, though heartbroken, committed to caring for Marcus, hoping to help him overcome. The case also prompted the Seattle Police Department to review its procedures for handling reports of violent threats. A program linking with social organizations was implemented to support people like Yvonne before tragedy strikes. Justice was served, but the pain remained. The freezer, now destroyed, was a reminder that killers don't always come from the shadows. Sometimes they are people driven to despair in their own homes.